That's better, I think.
Hi, Mark.
Morning, mate. Sorry, I was trying on my laptop. It didn't seem to work, so I've gone on my phone, and
That's all
that
right.
seems to have done the job. How are you?
Good.
Yeah,
You?
I'm all good, thank you. All good.
Should we start it then?
Yeah, ready when you are, mate.
So obviously you're a Dagenham legend in many fans' opinions. Um, how do you think your time at Dagenham went?
Yeah, I mean, to hear that obviously means it must have gone quite well, I guess, and it's very nice to hear. Obviously, I was there a long time. It was the only played for a few clubs, and Dagenham was the one I spent the most time at. Obviously, had a great time there. A few downs, but mainly ups. And yeah, being a local lad as well. Used to watch the club when I was sort of 14, 15. Went over there, went to games. So to end up playing there was it was brilliant.
And what would you say some of your favourite memories of playing for Dagenham are?
I guess it's the obvious ones, and obviously the cup runs were great. Um, the Charlton home and away, Exeter, especially personally, Exeter at home, and then playing Premier League Ipswich again, which although the result wasn't great, obviously the experience was superb. Then the year after managing it again and not getting Premier League clubs, but still, beating Plymouth, who were two leagues above, I think, at the time, and then taking Norwich all the way in the fourth round and suffering in the last minute, but still, they're the obvious ones, I guess. Winning the Ryman Premier in Gary's first season to take us into the conference, which is where it all started. So yeah, there's lots to look back fondly on.
And what would you say was some players that you had um found tricky against in games that you came up against?
There was some very good players. You had Kevin McIntyre was a left back, I remember, played for Chester. I think he may have gone on to Doncaster as well, or the other way round. Tim Ryan at Doncaster. They were the games that we really enjoyed, but they were the hard games, or the Doncaster, Chester, Yeovil, teams like that. Morecambe had a very good player, David Perkins. I can remember he was even shorter than me. I think he was quick. He was difficult to get past. So, but on the whole, I'd like to think that I did quite well against most fullbacks, but yeah, there were certainly some that were tougher than others.
And what do you think what do you put down the success for for Dagden when you were there? What do you think was the biggest reason for the success? Success.
Yeah. Well, again, the obvious one is to be successful, you have to have good players, but just being good players obviously doesn't guarantee that success. You have to work hard. You have to do the stuff off the ball. You have to want to. If you're a winger, you have to want to get back and help your fullbacks. If you're centre forwards, you have to shut down. And 99% of the players we had in our time all wanted to do that stuff. We all got on so well. It's a bit cliched, but the dressing room, certainly for that 3 or 4 years, during the cup runs and the Gary Hill era, if you like. Gary was a great man manager. He knew what players to get in. As I say, you couldn't just be a good footballer. You needed to do everything else. And we've got there's a WhatsApp group still with 12, 13 players in. It must be from that time that we all talk on a regular basis. We don't get together as often as we'd like, and if any of them are watching, they'll know that they get on my nerves because I'm forever trying to sort nights out, and three can make one week, four can make another, and it's become a bit of an ongoing joke now. But we do get together, a good group of us, a couple of times a year. Lee Goodwin, Hefts, Mathers, Cobby, Paul Terry, Brummy, Ash, all the names that you'd probably imagine. They're all in there, and yeah, we've still got this bond that will probably be there, for years and years to come still.
And you said about Gary Hill. How big was he for the team and getting the most out of them that he
Yeah,
could?
he was brilliant. Like I say, he was brilliant. Him and Terry Harris, who come with him, Mick Loughton, the scout, and Dickie Harper, the physios. I'm sure everyone remembers. He's in our WhatsApp group as well. And even that sort of staff have to be of the right mentality that all get on. But yeah, Gary was just brilliant at getting people going, and he'd certainly let you know he was a screamer and a shouter when he needed to be. He really could tear into you, but more often than not, he didn't really need to. Because we all knew the jobs we had to do, and we all 9 times out of 10, we got out, well, we got on with it. But no, he was brilliant. What he did at the club can't be denied. It's there for all to see. So he deserves a lot of praise.
And um what would you say your best best game for the Daggers was? Obviously, it'd be a hard question because you played a load of games for us.
Um, Yeah, I mean, I sort of alluded to it a little bit earlier. I guess because of the profile of it, probably Exeter at home in the FA Cup may not have been my best game really over 90 minutes, but obviously opposition in the league above, FA Cup live on Sky Sports, and the first half I just managed to start very well, scored after a great ball from Junior, which makes a change from me providing him. But yeah, and obviously my confidence was just high from that, and I think I put 3 or 4 really good balls in for other opportunities, and then Ken Charlie scored the third from one of my crosses before half time. So I'd say yeah, just because of the occasion, that it would have to be Exeter at home.
Any standout goals that you remember scoring for the Daggers?
Well, there weren't many. So, but again, the FA Cup, obviously, the Exeter one I just mentioned, it was live on Sky, which I'd never scored on Sky before, not played too many games. And then Lincoln the year before, second round of the FA Cup, 90th minute. That is, yeah, probably my favourite goal, I guess, just because of what it brought. Appearance in the third round, first time for a lot of the players, certainly first time for me. Premier League opposition, all the attention that came with it. So yeah, that's my favourite. I say I certainly didn't score as many as I'd liked, but it seemed to be when I did score, they come at important times. So I guess that was a good bonus.
And how was it like playing in the FA Cup?
Yeah, obviously I loved it, and all the boys did. When you're playing at that level that we are, then getting to that third round is obviously the dream, and all what it brings, just everything that comes with it, just the prestige for one, when you're growing up as a kid, but then all the attention and the cameras, and me and Paul Terry were luckily enough to go to the draw for the third round after I scored in the Lincoln game, and we got a car come and picked us up on the Sunday, took us to BBC studio, sorry, the FA Cup headquarters. It's quite a funny story actually, because it actually dropped us at Lancaster Gate, which was the old headquarters, and then the car left us. So me and Paul Terry had to scramble across to Soho House, where the draw was actually being made. So we got picked up by a car and ended up getting on the tube and running to make the draw in time, but it was all worth it. And then at the end, when we were ready to go home, our car was waiting for us. And when we got in there, two quite well-known members of the rowing community, Steve Redgrave and Matthew Pinsent, were in our cars. And a nice young lady from the FA had to come out and turf them out of our car and tell them it was going to the Dagenham FA Cup Christmas do, which was in Tarantino's in Hornchurch. So it was quite a funny day, really, and a brilliant experience.
Yeah, and what you said you was part of the sort when we won the Ryman League. Yeah.
Yep.
How was that like? What was that like winning the league in that
Yeah,
season?
it was brilliant. Yeah, it was one of the first sort of trophies I won, really, from what I remember. I think I won the Essex Senior Cup in my first year at Dagenham, maybe first or second year it might have been. So but yeah, obviously winning the league was the main aim. And the couple of years I'd been there, we hadn't really come close. We did well. The year before, we finished the season really well when after John Bennett and John Burrows took over. And I think we went about 10, 11 games without conceding a goal and were playing really good football, really enjoyable. But we hadn't started the season well enough to make any challenge for the title. So then Gary Hill come in, see some players left that had been there a while. So it was a bit of a fresh start. He brought some players in. We were favourites to win it early on, but as you know, that doesn't mean anything. But within sort of 2 or 3 months, we knew that if we carried on playing as we can, we would go on and win it. And in the end, it ended up being quite comfortable in the sense we won. I think with maybe 3 or 4 games to go. That season we must have played 21 games at home, whatever it was. We didn't lose a game. I think we won 20 and drew one. So, like, our home form was just unbelievable. And we only lost a handful away. So, yeah, it was a brilliant season, really enjoyable. Obviously, great to get in the conference and to win, like, a major trophy for our level. And, yeah, it was a brilliant season.
Yeah, and before you came to Dagenham, how did you find out about the move, and how did the move come about to Dagenham?
It was quite quite straightforward, really. Back in them days, there was I so I played for Tottenham and did apprenticeship at Tottenham, and then a year in the reserves, and I was released the following pre-season. I had a couple of trials at Southend, Colchester, never worked out, so I ended up playing for my brother's Sunday League side called Cheltenham. He used to play the home games over Parslows Park, so not far from Dagenham's ground.
Yeah,
Um, and I was not doing bad in that league, to say the least, like I should have been, really. It was I sort of went there just for a kickabout and ended up playing about 7 or 8 games. Scored quite a lot of goals, and the Dagenham Post picked up on it and did a little article about me. Funnily enough, just saying, explained that I'd come from Tottenham and ended up, the fall from grace, playing for Cheltenham in, Barking and Dagenham Sunday League, whatever it was. And the reserve manager at Dagenham saw the article, Johnny Burrows, and I ended up getting a phone call just saying, "Oh, why don't you come and train with us?" So I actually just started in the reserves, just went along playing on a Tuesday and Thursday, training, sorry, on a Tuesday and Thursday, playing on a Saturday, doing quite well for the reserves. And then after a couple of months, Ted Hardy asked me to come in and join in with the first team. Made my debut and sort of went from there. But it took me a little while to get in the side. Ted, I don't think he was my biggest fan at the beginning. He used to throw me in for a game, take me out, put me in, take me out. But that's football, obviously. And eventually, I made myself a regular. And yeah, what a great journey it was.
and you talked about Ted Hardy there. How was he? How was he like to play under?
Yeah, he was quite hard to play under. He was obviously quite an old manager. He was set in his ways, and obviously I'm not knocking him whatsoever. He's one of the best managers that non-league has ever seen, and what he achieved. But yeah, some of his methods were a little bit old school, to say the least. Like pre-season training, he had us standing at one end of the pitch and made us do forward rolls all the way to the other end of the pitch. By the time we stood up, half the lads were like almost throwing up. So, stuff like that we can look back on and laugh now. But and I said Gary was a bit of a screamer and shout at Ted. If you weren't doing it, he would absolutely call you out in the dressing room, and you'd really know about it. But yeah, he was great. Ted's absolute legend, and he was very successful.
Yeah, and um, what made you like stay for Dagenham for a long time? What do you think made the club so good to be at?
Well, yeah, I alluded to it earlier, I guess. just everything about it. The players. We were all really good friends. You know, some players come and go, obviously, but the nucleus of that dressing room was the same for 4 or 5 years. It was close to my house, which helped. I could get to training or to matches in. I lived in Rush Green, so I was literally 5 minutes away, 10 at the most. And that did play a big part in it. You know, I know there were clubs interested um, in me, like there were in a lot of the players. They couldn't not be with how well that we were all performing, and especially as I say, when the spotlight come on us with the FA Cup game. So there were players being watched without a doubt. But I never heard of any actual approach for me. The only time before Gary Hill come, Aylesbury actually phoned me up and offered to double my money. Actually, not far off it. Not that it was a lot of money back then. Don't get me wrong, but even if they were a bit nearer Aylesbury, I wasn't interested in leaving Dagenham. I really wasn't. It would have had to have been to a football league club for me to have left. But I never had any. You used to hear whispers about this club looking at so and so, and you know another club looking at someone else. But as far as I'm aware, no one actually ever come in for me. So that made it quite easy for me to stay. Not that I was looking to go elsewhere.
And who was some of the your favourite Dagenham players to play with at your time at the Daggers?
Again, the obvious. So Paul Terry was my. He was. They used to call us the twins. Me and him were sort of inseparable. We used to room together on away trips, sit together on the coach, and we used to, train together, warm up together, etc. So, and he was obviously a brilliant player as well. Um, Behind me, I had Lee Goodwin mainly at right back, which we used to say we'd work well together because I'd do his running for him and he'd do my tackling for me. So we worked well as a team. Obviously, Tarkin Mustafa come in a bit later, another brilliant player who just used to get me, bombing on and didn't want me back with him. You had Hefs in the middle, brilliant partnership with PT. Jason Broom, he was one of the old school. Obviously, he was there when I come into the club, and he took me under his wing a little bit and looked after me when I first come in. Lee Matthews, Timmy Cole, Ashley Vickers. Just I could go on and on. I'm trying to think who's in the group chat, so I don't forget to give them a mention. They'll get the Junior, obviously, Keeney, who was a late addition, who was only come to the club for a small time, but what a legend Mark Keane was. Not the fittest player in the world, but play centre half, could come on, play centre forward, score, and then go in goal when the keeper got sent off and save a penalty up at Morecambe. Like it was just full of players like that and characters and just a brilliant bunch.
And what was some of the hardest games you played at the Daggers against teams?
The hardest. Well, again, it would be probably the northern teams that I mentioned earlier. I'm trying to think the 3 years we had where we were challenging. We finished. I think our first 3 years we finished third when there was no playoffs. Second, obviously behind Boston, and then fifth the following season. So the teams that finished above us then, I mean, that first season you had Rushden and Diamonds in it. In comparison to us in regards to the stadium, the budget, etc. I think they had a 300 grand partnership up front that they'd paid for the two centre forwards, Dwayne Darby and someone else, can't remember the guy's name. So yeah, they were a very good side that went on to win it. Boston was a funny one, wasn't it? We finished second to them, but we did the double over them.
Yeah.
We beat them 2-1 away, beat them 1-0 at home. It's easy to sit here and say we should have won the league because we didn't. So we didn't deserve to, but it was in our hands really with 8-9 games to go, and we dropped some really, silly points away. Again, hard games away from home, but teams like Northwich, Nuneaton, I can remember Lee, I think, teams like that we should be beating or certainly not losing to. And then probably the best team was the year we won the playoffs, the Yeovil team that won it. I remember they come to us maybe a week before the season finished. They'd already won the league. and we still needed points to confirm the playoffs, I think, and we thought they'd maybe take it easy, and they beat us 4-0. They'd already won the league. You know, they were an unbelievable side. So many good footballers, not big at all, like a lot of the northern sides. You know, Chester, Doncaster were all big, strong. Yeovil weren't particularly big, but they just had brilliant footballers. So yeah, they're probably the ones that stand out.
Yeah, and did you play for any other teams in your career apart from Dagenham?
Yes. So as I started out, see, I mentioned I played for Tottenham, just youth team and reserves. I played a couple of games for Brentford. I went on loan to Tottenham. That would have been the equivalent of League One now. Played a couple of games, and then just a couple after I left. So I ended up at Heybridge Swifts after Dagenham, then to Thurrock. That was just in one season. Did about half a season at each of those, and then the following season. Colin McBride, the manager at Thurrock, went to Hornchurch and took me there, where I had 3 or 4 really good years. Where again we had a little bit of success in the FA Cup, like lower down the rounds than what I did at Dagenham, but obviously we were going in at a lower stage, and we won the Ryman North in my first season there, and established ourselves in the Ryman Premier. So yeah, I had 3 or 4 good seasons over there. So when I look back on it, I've always been a bit of a local lad, stuck to where I grew up basically, but thoroughly enjoyed my time at the teams I played for.
And do you still go over some Dagenham games when you can, or
I do now and again, yeah. I'll be honest, I actually go over Hornchurch more. I go over there about once a month because a couple of my friends live round the corner from there, so we head over there. And I mean, I say we watch, we actually just sit in the bar and watch through the big windows, so we don't actually go outside unless it's really warm. But no, I do get over the Daggers now and again, but no, it's not often. I actually went to the AFC Wimbledon FA Cup game
yeah,
this season on the Saturday night. A fella from work, me and him went over to see it, and obviously that brought a lot of memories flooding back. Few people were coming up and having a chat and stuff, and then it being FA Cup and us winning it late on, it brought a lot of memories flooding back, and makes you certainly miss playing and enjoying the feeling that was. But it was a brilliant night out. Thoroughly enjoyed it.
yeah. And do you still keep up with the Dagenham results?
Yeah, it's always one I look for. Yeah, as I say, I only played for a few clubs, so there's not many to look back on. But no, I'll always look out for their results and see how they're getting on.
Do you think the Daggers will stay up this season?
Yeah, I think they should be fine. I know I don't know too much about what's going on, to be honest, behind the scenes. I just, see what's on social media when I'm on Twitter or X, as you're supposed to call it now. So I just read that a lot of the supporters aren't happy with the current owners and stuff. But I think they obviously got a good result yesterday, which should lift the spirits after a couple of disappointing defeats recently. But I think they've got more than enough to stay up. So I think that obviously has to be priority now, and then look to start again for next season and hopefully make a push and put a challenge in for the playoffs.
Okay. Thank you, Mark, for the interview. Thank you for your
You're
time.
welcome, Charlie. It's thoroughly enjoyable, mate.
Thank you. Take care, mate.
Thanks, Charlie. Cheers.